Welcome everybody to the University of Applied Research and Development. It is our honour and our privilege to have Dr. George Boggs, who is the Emeritus Professor of the American Association of Community Colleges. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Craig. I'm happy to be with you.
I'm delighted to learn from you. You've had such a distinguished career, so please tell us what an Emeritus Professor does.
Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about the American Association of Community Colleges. It's the association in Washington, D.C. that advocates for the nation's community colleges and students. We have about 1,200 community colleges and about 12 million students in community colleges in the United States. So I was the president of that group from the year 10, and then retired and came back to California, where I had spent my career as a community college professor and president of a community college here. So in my retirement, I am teaching in a couple of doctoral courses, a couple of doctoral programs for mid-level faculty and administrators who are pursuing a path toward leadership in the colleges and universities. And I've done some writing and some consulting, so I'm keeping busy in my retirement.
It doesn't sound like retirement to me, actually, George.
Right.
So you've been involved in a number of different experiences as a senior leader. Could you just share with us what are some of those things that really keep you engaged as a leader in education, as opposed to fully retiring or going somewhere and doing something else?
Well, I think I've always wanted to help other people. Of course, when I was a faculty member, I wanted to help our students, to help them to be successful, help them to learn. I was a chemistry professor and taught some courses in environmental science and fire science. And I really enjoyed teaching, but I enjoyed being an administrator and helping faculty to be more successful with their teaching. And then as a college president, of course, helping a college to grow and serve the community and serve the students. And then as an association president to help the colleges to be successful and to make sure they had the resources they needed. So in retirement, I still want to help people to lead those colleges and preparing people to be senior administrators and presidents and chancellors of colleges and universities.
So for those of us who might be from the United Kingdom, or I'm from New Zealand, can you just explain the unique positioning of community colleges in the education landscape?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Craig. In the UK, of course, we have the FE, or further education colleges, that are probably pretty close to the community colleges in the United States. And in Australia, I think they have TAFEs. New Zealand, I think, has technical colleges that are similar. The major difference is that the community colleges in the United States allow for students to transfer into universities. So the further education and higher education systems are sort of combined in the United States. There's not a separation. So students come to community colleges to prepare for careers such as being firefighters or police officers or computer programmers or nurses, but they can also transfer to university to become a scientist or a medical doctor or whatever credential a university might prepare them for. Community colleges in the United States are the most accessible and affordable institutions. There's a great diversity of students who attend, even people who are coming back into education later in life. Maybe a woman who has raised her children and she wants to prepare for a career. So they're very accessible, very affordable institutions to help students to achieve their educational and training goals.
So George, I would imagine with 1,200 colleges, 12 million students, there are a number of challenges to deal with, to lead them forward. What are some of those challenges that are unique to your members in your association?
I think one of the biggest challenges is the obstacles that the students face. Uh, the most economically disadvantaged students attend the community colleges because they are more accessible and less expensive, and there are no selective admissions criteria such as the Ivy League institutions in the United States. Anybody who graduates from high school, and even some who didn't complete their high school education or secondary education, can still enroll in a community college. That creates unique challenges for them, especially if they are working at a job, or maybe raising a family, or maybe both. Maybe they're single parents. So it's difficult for them to be successful in college. So our colleges have to find strategies to help to support these students and to help them to be successful. That's probably the biggest challenge, of course, right now. Colleges and universities probably throughout the world are facing the challenge of dealing with the pandemic and how they can provide educational services, sometimes remotely, to students. And then, of course, the pandemic is affecting the economy, which means that the institutions will not have the finance to provide the services that are needed. So there always seem to be significant challenges for leaders to deal with. And that's part of what I do in my doctoral courses, is to try to prepare these administrators and faculty to meet these challenges and to help their students.
George, you're a leader of leaders and a trainer of leaders. And where do you see leadership in education as being different today as it might have been a decade ago?
Well, I think it always becomes more challenging. In the very beginning of the community colleges in the United States at the turn of the century, in 1901, we trace our roots back to 1901 with the opening of Joliet Junior College outside of Chicago. Back in those days, the challenges were trying to provide access. Then, of course, during the civil rights movement in the 1960s, the challenges were how to expand access to include a more diverse student population. Of course, we had the returning GIs after World War II and other conflicts we've had since then. The colleges have had to find ways to accommodate those students. So today, I think our biggest challenges are trying to help these students to be successful. So it's no longer a situation where we just open our doors and provide opportunity, and if they make it, that's great. If they don't, that's too bad. We try everything we can these days to help the students to be successful. And of course, finances are always a challenge. We're always struggling to stretch our resources to do what we need to do. So it's a more complex environment probably than it ever has been. We need to provide safety and security for our students, and sometimes that can be a challenge. So there are many issues today, and we have to prepare our leaders to deal with them.
George, as you look back on your career, what would be one or two of the significant leadership learning experiences that you went through and how they impacted you?
I think, of course, some of it is academic preparation. I did attend a doctoral program at the University of Texas at Austin, which was the very best program for community college leaders in the United States at the time. So that program prepared me academically and gave me the credentials I needed. But probably a lot of it was on-the-job experience, dealing with complex issues. Which I guess I should give a little plug here to a book we wrote a few years ago called Practical Leadership in Community Colleges. And then, of course, we just had one come out called Team Leadership in Community Colleges. So so what I'm saying is that there are a lot of leadership theories out there, but leaders need practical experience. They need to be thinking about how they would practically deal with the issues they're faced with, and how they should develop their teams, their leadership teams, to support them and to accomplish the goals of the institution. So I think you can go clear back to the values that were developed as you were growing up. My parents instilled certain values in me that served me well throughout my life and my career. Things like always be honest, always meet your commitments, never be late for anything. Some of those values that are taught to us growing up help to shape the values that enable us to be effective leaders.
I love that, George. So academic preparation and also being strong and clear on your values of behavior, that's great. So if someone was aspiring to be a leader in education, and in our Masters of Education program, we have principals, directors, vice principals, and classroom teachers, what would you say to aspiring leaders would be some important experiences or opportunities that aspiring leaders should take hold of going forward to prepare them for the next level?
Well, I think there are resources out there that aspiring leaders can make use of. The American Association of Community Colleges published when I was at AACC Competencies for Community College Leaders. It's now into its third edition. It's up on the AACC website, and a lot of these principles, these competencies, are competencies that can go beyond just community colleges and secondary education and higher education as well. So I'd recommend taking a look at resources available on the website of the Association of Community Colleges. It's called Leadership Competencies, or Competencies for Community College Leaders. There are a lot of other books out there, but I think one of my biggest pieces of advice is to see yourself as a learner. Always look for opportunities for professional development. I'm glad that you're enrolled in a master's program and will continue your education. That's critical. Find opportunities to learn, serve on committees, read publications, present at conferences, write, speak, be involved in your community, continue to learn, and those are all great opportunities for you to learn and develop your skills as a leader.
George, that's fantastic. George, I really want to thank you for your time and your wisdom and sharing your experiences with us, and we do wish you all the very best.
Well, thank you, Craig. I appreciate the opportunity, and I wish you the best and hope for the best for all of your students.